All right, maybe we still have a few people coming in, but I think we will get started with the next presentation. It's a common refrain in the Bitcoin community that we always need more Bitcoin podcasts. I'll bet a lot of you here have are getting your Bitcoin information from a podcast here, a podcast there, plenty of big ones, and we always need more of them. Our next presenter is basically, he heard that and he decided to take that really literally, and he makes the most prolific Bitcoin podcast out there, the Rob and Seyr Show. And he releases a podcast every day, live streams, a whole bunch of other stuff. And he's got an interesting presentation about basically misconceptions about Bitcoin adoption. And I'll let him tell you all about that. So please welcome Rob and Seyr.
Awesome. Do you guys hear me? Awesome. So this will be my talk. Bitcoin is the biggest generational wealth shift in human history, and this is why I'm all in. I had in the past 2 years, I'm not a big fan of long introductions. I think one thing that you might should know about me, I've done in the last 2 years a daily podcast. This was kind of my journey into Bitcoin, because when I started the podcast, I was already kind of bullish on Bitcoin. I was already doing something in Bitcoin, but I wasn't fully there yet. And so I decided to just interview every Bitcoiner that wants to talk with me. And this rate went from normal teachers that like Bitcoin up into people that were engineers, and even like Michael Saylor, Jeff Booth, Natalie Brunel, all the big people in Bitcoin. And so my thought was, why don't I kind of summarize the biggest thing that I've learned from all of that, from all the biggest Bitcoin speakers, and see what is actually going on with that. And my biggest learning was just this right here. It is the simplest thing that I've learned from all the speakers on Bitcoin. When you think about what Bitcoin is, many different people say different things. We have, for example, people say, oh, Bitcoin is a store of value. Or people say maybe, oh, it's just a medium of exchange and it's just like peer-to-peer cash. Then other people say it's digital energy. And we have heard so many different phrases. Then people are saying, oh, Bitcoin is a scam, Bitcoin is a bubble, all of that also. So we have many different definitions of what Bitcoin actually is. But for me, the underlying truth is most people, even most Bitcoiners, still underestimate what a huge shift this is. And for me, Bitcoin is a foundational invention and not just a financial one. And I go into a little bit more in depth in what do I mean by that. But then there's a second aspect to it, and I'm really curious also what Giovanni has to say today with the power law, because as I say here, but overestimate the speed of adoption. I think Bitcoiners have this fallacy of saying we're going to $1 million next week, or we're going very fast in adoption, very soon. And that's what I kind of see in the Bitcoin era, where we have great adoption. It's going very fast. We've come from zero to president and ETFs talking about it, to the biggest, to the richest man alive is talking about it, Elon Musk. We have the founder of the biggest company, the co-founder of the biggest company, Steve Wozniak, saying, I own Bitcoin. We have so many big indicators after just 16 years. So this has been quick. But most people still overestimate how quick we will actually go to this future, but they underestimate how big of a change Bitcoin will actually be. And just as a little bit of a picture there, this is, I asked ChatGPT, please draw me a frog in a boiling water, because we always take that picture of a frog in a boiling water. When you heat it up, he doesn't recognize it if you do it slowly, and he dies in there. Actually, that's what I've come to know is actually false. If you heat it up and the frog has the possibility to jump out of the water, he actually will. And this is kind of my theory also with the fiat system. If the inflation is high enough, if there is enough pain in the system and there's an exit available, and Bitcoin is that exit, gold is that exit, there are many other hard currencies, there's many other exits there. Even real estate is one of the exits that people take. ETFs are exits that people take. And so if we boil the water too high, basically printing money, the people will jump out. My my dad works at a bank actually, and I asked him, "Do you have any statistics? How many euros people have on the bank accounts?" And he came back to me after a week asking with some people there. They have a statistics. It's a huge Austrian bank. On average, people have not even 5,000 euros on the bank account. Like that's the average. Like no person has really a lot of wealth on the bank account. They have it already in alternatives. And Bitcoin is obviously the better one, but this is kind of the situation. When you have boiling hot water, the frog will jump out and people will flee out of that system. This is a chart made by me. There's no scientific, I totally claim the right that this is completely false, but this is what I've come up with ChatGPT and Grok and all the AIs of asking, like, if you have the global debt to GDP ratio in each year, and I tried to figure out what is the global debt to GDP ratio in each year, and this is what he came out with, and that's kind of a smooth line. And we've seen, even in the 1940s, it's been extremely high, but not even close to what we have come here. And then when we move forward, one of those very popular exits is gold. And this chart, I had to submit the presentation, the slides, a little bit early. And so this is actually like a very old Bitcoin, very old gold price with under 4K. Now we are at 4.2, 4.3. I don't know. I think we almost touched the 4.4. And this is one of the other alarm signals of like, this is, for me, Bitcoin and gold is almost like a fire alarm for the boiling hot water, where people, if this goes up, people saying like, I want to exit from that. I want to flee from that. This is just another small chart. I run a little bit through them because we see here again, what is the US current account gap hit 6% of the GDP for the first time since 2006. And so this is just another alarm signal of how bad the fiat system, again, the boiling water, actually is, and why people search for something else. Now, to make all of that sense, we have to first see what is even in there. And this is a chart, the next chart you've probably seen all. It's a very popular chart. It's one of the most popular charts in Bitcoin, actually. And this is the sizing the market. Jesse is such a great guy. I had him on the podcast just 2 weeks ago for the second time. And I asked him, well, like, how did you even come up with that chart? Like, this is like a fundamental chart when we talk about Bitcoin. And he said, like, there was nobody sizing the whole market. And if you look at the whole market, we have Bitcoin at 2 trillion, we have gold at 22 trillion, and then we have real estate, bonds, and the money is small equities, and then arts and cars and all of that. And for me, it's very important because you have all those exits. Why does real estate actually go up? And I have some charts also, like if you see real estate in gold, it actually doesn't go up. In real estate, only goes up in US dollars, in euros, in, how's the Bulgarian currency called? I think BGN or something like that. The Bulgarian dollars, basically. In all of those currencies, it actually does go up. And so when you look at what happened the last 2 years, we had a huge development where people are fleeing those soft assets, basically bonds and money. And so when we see what actually was who were the people that were actually benefiting from that, that's Bitcoin and that's gold. That's hard assets. Of course, real estate also went up a little bit relatively. So from 2023, he did the sizing, and he went the sizing again in 2025. And from there, you can see that the people are fleeing the systems that are boiling hot. So we're coming from money. Money is it's a huge bad term for Bitcoiners because we call it money, but it's actually the one thing that's not money. It's currency. So if we call it money for this presentation only, we go from money to Bitcoin. We go from money to gold. We go from bonds to Bitcoin. We go from bonds to gold, and also a little bit real estate. Because people recognize that we have a huge problem with the fiat currencies. And then I was like, okay, how big of a deal is it actually? Like I've thought about it, like inflation is such a weird metric because we all have different inflation rates. It depends on what you buy. Do you live back with your parents and the only thing that you actually have to pay is some groceries and some Netflix subscription? Like then the inflation rate is not that bad for you. But if you want a nice house, if you want maybe a nice car, you want to have nice things, you want to go into nice restaurants, your inflation rate is way higher. And so it was like the one thing that everyone needs, if they don't live with their parents, is a house. And I looked it up. This is the house price in Austria, for like I'm Austrian, European example. This is the house price since 1990. And why is house price so interesting? Because you can say, okay, some people rent. I looked it up. House prices go up right around the same rate as inflation actually goes up. So we don't have the problem of saying, hey, only the house prices go up. The rent goes up with the house prices, almost in the same way. There's some fluctuations, of course, but like it's usually almost the same. And then the house prices ignore the inflation-adjusted house price because the inflation-adjusted house price would go down. Like that's BS in my opinion. But if you look at the blue line, we've gone up in a straight line. But now what is happening, and I've told you this before, what is happening if we don't consider US dollar or euros money? What if we consider something hard as money? What if we consider, for example, gold as money? We have all of a sudden a chart that looks a lot better. This is money I want to save in. This is a money where I say, hey, I have an income, I have, I don't know, a business, I'm employed at some company, and so I want to save some money. And when I save some money, at some point I want to own a home. If I have this chart, like I don't save. Like I buy it right now with credit, I do all of that because like it does not make sense to save for a home. It gets more expensive each year. You're actually getting further away by saving for your home. When you do it in gold, when you choose gold as your money, you're already going a lot closer to that. You're like, okay, actually my house comes down in price if you save your money in gold. And this chart starts at, I don't even know, I think 2000, I think I said it. So you can set it at any time. Real estate always goes down if you set it in a hard asset like gold. Obviously, because real estate is a liability, is an investment, is a business, but not a savings vehicle. But what happens actually if you denominate it in an even better money? And of course, Bitcoin is newer, so there's like an extreme case because we not only have sound money, we also have a huge adoption. So what we are seeing here is that we have it in 2012, 2013, somewhere around the 10,000, 20,000 Bitcoin prices. We went down maybe in 2017 with a few hundred Bitcoins for an average medium US home. And now, today, depends on like the price exactly, but around 3 to 6 Bitcoin, a median US home costs with Bitcoin, and it's the same in euro. So if you actually adopt the Bitcoin standard, if you adopt a sound money standard, you actually can afford a home. And I don't know about you, but like I see so many people in my environment, so many friends of mine, and say like, I can never afford a home. Like how I have like 5,000 euros in my bank account. Like how the heck will I ever save up to have a home? With this gives people hope because all of a sudden you can put a few hundred euros in the Bitcoin account, and all of a sudden, like the dream comes closer and closer. And the thing that happens if people get hope, they're like, okay, I can do more. If you get more desperate each month from the fiat because this is the money that you save in, it gets very hard, and you're like, okay, what should I do? My dream runs away. And so not that the dream is to own a home, but if you want to do this, because a home everyone needs, and the same thing is with rent. The rent, exactly as I said before, is running at the same rate. And so I could show you 1,000 other charts that show how doomed the fiat currency system is. But this basically all say the same thing. We have the fiat currencies, we have euros, we have yens, we have US dollars, and all the big currencies that are really, really doomed. But then there are other currencies Like, for example, the Turkish lira. I talked today with a Turkish guy that said about the Turkish lira. There's so many Argentine pesos, so many different currencies that are even worse than that. And the funny thing for me is they are first looking to get a better fiat currencies. So they're actually looking towards the euro. They're looking towards the Turkish, they're looking towards the US dollar. And so when you have that, when we have that as Bitcoin is a better money, it's a story that you already know. But I want to go one step ahead of that. I want to go one step beyond that, where I see Bitcoin not only as a money, not only as the best thing that you can save in, transact in, and it's permissionless. Just a small example for that, how Bitcoin is a money. I earn most of my money already in Bitcoin because I work with Bitcoin companies, and I also try to pay people, my freelancers, in Bitcoin. And so I have this stream of money that goes from Bitcoin to Bitcoin to Bitcoin. It doesn't even touch the fiat currency anymore. And that's why it is already, for me, a superior form of money. And if I keep the Bitcoin, if I keep it in my Bitcoin account, it actually grows over time, so I can afford these houses and other things in my life down the road. And now a really important concept for me that I actually understood very late in my Bitcoin journey. I had already 200 episodes, I think, on my podcast where I was like, what is Bitcoin actually? What does Bitcoin represent? And for me, in the beginning, I was like, okay, it's an investment. Like in the very beginning, I said, like, it's a scam. Then I went slowly into like, okay, it might be an interesting diversify. It might be an interesting investment. And then slowly I was like, okay, Bitcoin is actually savings. I can save in it. I can save money in there. And then more and more I went towards, oh, it's money. Bitcoin is actually money. For me, Bitcoin is a foundational invention, just like the fire, the wheel, almost like riding. It's a protocol. Because even if we take away all the electronics, you can do Bitcoin with pen and paper. It's a protocol that you can do with whatever you want to do it. And so it's a foundational invention of digital scarcity. And when we look at, I just brought some example up for people of foundational inventions. It's the fire. Like, fire is such a huge game changer. Imagine you don't have fire. But this is like a little bit an earlier game changer where fire was more around us with candles and all that, because we have now other things. The wheel is one of my favorite examples because like we all come by wheels. Like if you're in the train, if you come with the cars, it's something that enables so many things. And this is kind of also how I look at Bitcoin. Oh, we have riding where it goes beyond where you can say, hey, I don't have to memorize everything. I can actually go ahead and just write it down, put it somewhere, and then afterwards I can do it. Kind of an extension of my own memory. And as a next one, this is the hugest thing for me, electricity. If you think about what electricity enabled, is the same thing when you travel somewhere where there's no electricity. And actually, there's also electricity is a great comparison to how Bitcoin actually will evolve over time. When we think about what all is enabled through electricity, if we don't have electricity for just 2 weeks, or 2 days probably is even enough for that. People on the streets, they are running around with guns. Maybe not in Europe that much, but definitely in America, where we have people like freaking out. But there are still a lot of places in the world where there's no electricity. So Bitcoin electricity products universal power on demand. You can just tap into it. Then now what is the internet? Now it's so interesting when we think about what if the internet wouldn't be here. It's so foundational. It changes all our lives. It's so foundational of like, if you have internet or you don't have internet, means you have a totally different chance. Imagine yourself, you can wake up tomorrow as any person. What would you choose? A world with internet or a world without internet? With internet, it's very different to without internet. Same as with computing, same as with, maybe the battery is getting slow. The same as with, like, for me, AI and robotics. This is the only thing that I'm somewhat similar excited about than Bitcoin, where we come with AI and robotics. I always said, like, if I don't have a podcast on Bitcoin, I probably would go with AI and robotics, because it's super interesting how we have scalable intelligence. All of a sudden, I can give hundreds and hundreds of pages of knowledge or even video materials to an AI and tell him to do something with it, and I can go on the couch and drink a tea and wait with what results he comes back and can work with that. That's, if we think about writing as the extension for our memory, AI is the extension of our brain. We can outsource our brain now. I encourage everyone to still think, to be critical. I think AI will enable a lot of people to get stupider over time, but also a lot of people to get a lot more smarter over time. And now to the big question, what does Bitcoin actually enable? I thought about it very long and hard, because it was kind of hard to distinguish down to one sentence, what does Bitcoin actually do for us? What is actually the thing that we have because of Bitcoin? And I came back with one sentence. Bitcoin brought us trust without intermediaries. We have all of a sudden an asset and a network that we no longer have to trust. I work, my thumbnail designer, she is Pam, and she works in El Salvador. And every month I pay her, and when I pay her, I have an address, and I give the Bitcoin to this address, and right when I paid it, I know it's there. I can prove it. Maybe she gave me the wrong address, maybe something happened, but I know when she actually received the funds. I can verify it and I can prove it. This is just one small example. I make the same thing with my editor for the podcasts. He lives in Colombia, and he lives on pesos, and he gets the payments in fiat, in US dollars. When I pay him, I have to fill out 10 different things: where he lives, what his account number is, all of that, where I could make so many mistakes. And even if I press send, I'm never sure if it really goes there. Like, what if they block the transaction? What if I filled out his home address wrong, and this is why it gets bounced back to me? There's so many questions in my mind where I'm like, oh, I have to trust that bank. With Bitcoin, I don't have to trust. I can just do it. And this is a huge thing that we will really see the power of what this means for us in the long run. This is something that will take a time to realize how huge this is. Now, coming back to that chart, now there's always the interesting question. As a podcaster, you get those questions a lot. Where's the price going to be of Bitcoin? And I kind of hate to answer that question, but I always answer it the same way. Imagine all the assets in the world. Imagine those are all the assets of the world. What can Bitcoin possibly capture from that? And there's a lot of talks of, like, can it capture 20% of that market? Can it capture 50? Can it capture 99.9% of it? And the truth is, it depends on when you look at it. I personally think Bitcoin is the foundational layer of everything we do. It will be included in every transaction, in every financial thing, and every person will be incentivized to save most of his money in Bitcoin. And then some of his money maybe in his own company. Maybe he sees some interesting stock he wants to invest in. Maybe he has his own house. But long term, Bitcoin gets most of the financial energy. And so I'm not sure what the percentage is. I just know that this chart will probably look a little bit more like that. And this seems very extreme. It's like, oh, there's Bitcoin and there's just a small other thing. But there is no way of knowing when exactly for me this happens. And this is something where I'm really sure of that it will take a long time till we get there. As I said in the beginning, people underestimate the impact that Bitcoin actually will have. Think about what we just did just in 16 years, going from zero to the president talking about it, till the co-founder of the biggest company in the world, Steve Wozniak, saying, I own Bitcoin, I think it's great. The richest man alive saying, I have Bitcoin, I own it, like Elon Musk, and so many more people, like BlackRock with Larry Fink. We've came from zero to this big of institutional investments without a head. Satoshi Nakamoto just left, with nobody driving it, because we all drive it, because this is idea, its time has come. But again, we overestimate how quick we'll go there. And so that's why I'm always saying to the people that ask me about the price, where is Bitcoin going to be in 10 years, 5 years, 100 years? And I always say, like, I cannot give you an exact date and time, and like I know this is where Bitcoin gonna be. It's just not like what my expertise is, but I know Bitcoin is at some point going to reach $1 million, because it's just logical that the US dollar and all fiat currencies are going down in value. So it has to reach at some point those levels. Maybe $1 million then is no longer this was $1 million is right now. The same with 10 million, the same with 100 million, the same with everything. And this is kind of the thing that I always come back. With Bitcoin, we didn't find a scheme to make money. We found money. This is the first time in history where we have the perfect money. Gold was kind of predecessor to that, but it's the first time where we actually found it. Now I'm late on time, 5 minutes left. I want to give you guys one more actionable thing that I found in the Bitcoin community, even of people that really are a lot in my comments and I interact with a lot. There are 3 pillars of Bitcoin. There's the wealth pillar. Translation is you will get rich, you will get wealthy from Bitcoin. Then there's the freedom pillar. You will be free. You can all of a sudden transact with anyone in the world. Nobody can get your money gone, can get your money away from you. You can all of a sudden go through a border control with Bitcoin in your head, and they don't even know you have it. They cannot even get it if they even want it, and there are better ways to do it, to get it over the border. But a memory wallet is one of those ways. I don't recommend it, but it shows the power of Bitcoin. And then the culture thing. In the initial presentation, I actually had just 2. I had wealth and freedom, but I was like, there's something missing. We're going to Bitcoin conferences. We are excited to talk to each other. We are excited to actually be in this community. Like, why do we travel from all across the world to a small place to just talk Bitcoin? This is the culture aspect. If you want to only hold Bitcoin on exchange and on an ETF, you get the wealth aspect. You see everything is kind of going up. That's great. If you want the freedom aspect also, you have to own your own keys. You have to own your own node, and you maybe also have to own a miner, but more to that later. And so if we come to that conclusion that if you want to be also free, if you want to have to also the second thing, you benefit from Bitcoin a lot more because you get more benefits from that. And the third layer is that what you're kind of doing here is socializing in Bitcoin, making Bitcoiner friends. If Bitcoin only has a small chance of being that big, and you have now the chance to socialize with all those Bitcoiners that get that, you will have a lot of not only wealthy, but also like intellectual great friends, because they got in something very early that benefited them greatly. So going back to the 3 layers, those are the 3 main pillars of Bitcoin. And for me, freedom is the main pillar. This is the main thing. This is why Bitcoin has value. Without it, it would just be another investment. And then I would have been right in the first time where I said, oh, it's just an investment. But because you can keep your own because you can keep your own keys, because you can actually run your own full node, and because you can actually run the miner and you can contribute yourself to the network and you can verify everything, this is why it has such a huge value. Otherwise, we wouldn't be passionate about it, and then there wouldn't also be that many conferences about it and all of that. And so this is just my pitch to you. Make it your mission to understand Bitcoin, but then also properly secure it. And just so I'm partnered up with those companies. So this is just like if you want help with all that. So like all that I've just said with the getting your own keys, getting your own node, getting your own miners. You can do this all yourself. There are great resources like Ben from BTC Session, many others like Simply Bitcoin. There are like many great resources online that you can just go ahead and learn everything. You don't have to do anything for actually getting there. But you need some tools, you need some guidance here and there. Those are my partners. And there is one thing. This is a company I just got involved with, is MicroSeed, where you can stamp your own seed phrase. And we first wanted to actually set up a booth, but then I was like, okay, I cannot carry all the things by myself, and I don't have a lot of time for the booth because I have the panels and all of that. So I was like, I want to come with something for you guys. If you want to have a MicroSeed, it's a very new product on the market. We just launched it basically this year. You can now use code BTC, and this is something that we only have at conferences, and this is 10% instead of the usual 5% that you get with podcasters. And with that being said, I want to end it on this note. Take the freedom aspect of Bitcoin as serious as possible. This is the main pillar. If you don't have your own keys, if you don't run your own node, if you don't do all of that, you might suffer the consequences. And I thought about that, but it just takes too long because I'm on my last 59 seconds. I thought about showing all the examples of people losing their Bitcoin because they left it on exchanges, because they left it on some third party. This is super, super important. Make sure that you stamp your seed phrase somewhere durably. It doesn't have to be MicroSeed. It can be anywhere. You can literally just buy the bunches of Amazon and just punch them in some titanium or some metal yourself. Like it's not that hard. And so make sure you really secure your Bitcoin nicely. And with that being said, thank you so much.